We're about to have our latest Dolphins mailbag on today's show. If you like these and you want them to continue, show it by liking today's video right now. We asked for Dolphins questions in the community section and in recent videos, and you guys delivered. First up from John Ruiz, who's always good for a bunch of questions. Any rumors on Josh Jacobs to the Dolphins because he didn't get an extension on the deadline? We did mention this recently on a video, but it's still worth discussing again here, John. Not much. I do think there is a chance that Jacobs holds out potentially of games for the Raiders. I do not think he will report to training camp in a couple of days for Vegas. He's unhappy with the way things went down. The running backs in general are not happy campers at the current moment. I will say the Raiders seem to want to win football games with Josh McDaniels, but it's also Josh McDaniels, and like the guy does weird stuff all the time, and Jimmy Garoppolo may not be healthy, and they could very well be bottoming out towards a bottom pick this upcoming year. Who knows? I would be surprised if the Dolphins chose, or the Raiders chose to trade Josh McDaniels. Of the potentially disgruntled or just gruntled backs, Jacobs, I think, is more viable than, say, Saquon Barkley, who Jay Rivero asks/comments about. Says, I see the Dolphins trading for Saquon. The Giants' wide receiver room is weak. I say trade said Wilson. Add a fourth pick, and we can happily deal with Saquon's contract next year. There was also a reply to this saying that Saquon was not going to play on a one-year deal. He has no other options. He's playing on a one-year deal this year. What the Dolphins could hypothetically do is agree to a franchise tag tender one-year deal that has language saying we won't tag you next year. That might go over pretty well with Saquon's camp. The problem here is what you're giving up to the New York Giants. You're right. Their wide receiver room is not particularly strong. Last year, they got Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard. Those guys aren't the most appealing of options, but I don't think Cedric Wilson makes the Giants team. And at his salary, that's actually, I believe, a negative asset right now in the NFL. So you have to bump that draft pick up pretty significantly, I believe, to get a player who the Giants view as a key part of their offense. They couldn't get a deal done money-wise, but the Giants without Saquon Barkley, it's just not as good. And they view themselves as a playoff contender. I think it would even be more expensive to get Saquon than Josh Jacobs. The value is not right from Miami's perspective, but I could see the Giants asking for at least a second-round pick, which I would not do if I were the Dolphins. That's too much to pay for 1 year of Saquon. Even if you get a comp pick back, it just doesn't. The math is not mathing for me on that front. What I want you guys to do is have some fun. Put your trade ideas in the comments section. They can be great. They can be good. They can be mediocre. They could be, even Madden wouldn't say yes to them. Get them in the comment section at the pinned comment of today's video. Maybe we'll pick the best ones for a future vid too. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Think about it if you need to. Put your trade ideas at the pinned comment. Robert Moore says, forget Cook. He does not want to play for Miami. That's overwhelmingly clear. I'm not going to yell this next part. So you can get D. Henry. So go get D. Henry, pay him whatever. Let's go win the Super Bowl and win. Go Miami Dolphins. Love the mindset. 2 notes here. We'll start with Derrick Henry. I don't think he's available. The Titans go out and they acquire DeAndre Hopkins via NFL free agency. That is not a move you make if you are going to trade away the focal point of your offense. That's King Henry. Henry's numbers are down the past 2 years. The average has not nearly been as good as what it's been in years past. It's down. It's not as productive. It's 4.4, 4.3. Titans' offensive line's been pretty terrible, I would argue, the last 2 years. Quarterback injuries as well. I think King Henry would thrive with Mike McDaniel and Tua and Waddle and Hill. Man, that's a fun grouping. I don't think he's available. I also don't believe in, maybe I'll look really dumb in a few days or weeks or whatever, that Cook just clearly does not want to play for Miami. He hasn't accepted the contract offer yet, I know, but that's true for several teams. He just wants more money, or at least wants to get a little bit more out of Miami. I still think Miami is one of the top contenders to land at Dalvin Cook. But let's have some fun on today's show. If you could trade for one of these guys, let's assume the cost is relatively similar, give or take a little bit here or there. Who would you rather trade for? JJ for Josh Jacobs, DH for Derrick Henry, SB for Saquon Barkley. Go vote in the comments. Miami Dakota has multiple questions here, so we'll kind of group them all together. Wilkins trade scenarios, they can't get an extension done. Surprise trade candidates, and can the Dolphins get a top-notch tight end? Let's begin with Christin Wilkins. I don't want to trade him. The TFL numbers, the sack numbers are not the best, although they are pretty freaking good, especially the TFL numbers. The tackle numbers are borderline unheard of for a defensive tackle. And that's not as frequent as you see a defensive player impacting it. I think, pay Christin Wilkins. Do it. I think he's too good up front for you, and having that interior player is very valuable in the modern-day NFL. So I would pay him. Having that interior presence who can stop the run helps allow you to play those too high shell coverages that are so in vogue right now in the NFL and not get gashed along the running game quite as badly. If you were to trade him, I think at minimum you would need a second-round pick back. I don't think settling for anything less is a good idea, and maybe even a first-round pick is more valuable despite the sack numbers not being out there. So I would pay Christin Wilkins first and foremost, but I will answer your question there, Miami Dakota. Surprise trade candidates. I did want to go surprise, so 4 names I don't think end up getting traded. How about Liam Eichenberg? What happens in the event, maybe it's Jerron Christian, maybe it's somebody else, emerges as a viable backup to Teron Armstead, and Isaiah Wynn is clearly above Eichenberg at left guard. Trade him, get something back. Maybe Austin Jackson too, but I don't love the right tackle spot as much there. Jeff Wilson Jr. at running back, especially if you do land a different player. You could flip Wilson, who is going to get you maybe something unlike a Myles Gaskin. Channing Tindall, I'm not moving on from him, but as a former third-round pick who didn't play much last year, the Dolphins punt early. You want surprise? I'm giving you surprise names. And Nick Needham, Cater Code can be the nickel. Maybe Noah Igbenogany finally emerges. Wouldn't that be a nice surprise? Finally, can the Dolphins get a top-notch tight end? Probably not. Who's out there? Nobody in free agency. Who are your trade options? Darren Waller already got moved. So unless the Falcons are like a disaster this year and they shop Kyle Pitts at the deadline, I highly, highly doubt that, by the way, because I don't think they're going to be terrible in a bad NFC South. And Pitts is, I still think, really good. Not a young player the Falcons should trade, even if they're bad this year. I don't see anybody really being available. If you guys want more Dolphins mailbags, then make sure you are subscribed. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/DolphinsNews, for Dolphins videos every day, including roughly, give or take, a mailbag or 2 per week. From Joshua Santiago, how can the added muscle overall weight gain positively and or negatively affect Tua's scrambling and throwing abilities? So, really good questions. We'll dive into some of the sports science of it here. From a scrambling perspective, I'm not really that concerned about it, mostly because Tua's not a great scrambler. The things he does well, accuracy, quick release, processing, the things he does not so well. He's done in the strongest arm. He's not the most mobile guy. I think the hip kind of saps some of that injuries there. He's not going to be someone you're getting involved on a massive volume of like read option stuff. Now, he can still move around the pocket a little bit. He's not like a statue back there. But I'm not worried about the potential weight gain causing issues with the scrambling. It's already not a big factor there. As long as you're not getting just outright fat, which he's not, it shouldn't really impact the throwing ability at all. It shouldn't have any major impact from that, at least not like a tangible impact there. The main reason for more muscle overall weight gain is trying to have some maybe not full Big Ben level of like some cushion to avoid some injuries, but being a little bit stronger and tougher and thicker to help prevent injuries. We'll see if that works out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Not everybody's body is the same, but I think adding a little bit more mass is not a bad thing for Tua. And in general, young players, you want to see them across different position groups add some more weight because it will make them a little bit stronger. Or at least the strongness being added is why they gain weight. Anyway, rank Tua in the meantime among NFL quarterbacks. Is he top 5 for you? Is he top 10? Is he for the top 15? He's definitely top 15 for me. He's borderline top 10. Sound off in the comment section. From Symbiotic Toot, I think that's what that one is. He has a fishy profile picture. Excluding offensive line, which are the weakest positions on the team? So number 1 for me is tight end. And I'll clarify quickly here. I don't see that many weak position groups anyway. That's why this team is a legitimate playoff and beyond contender. Number 1 is tight end. I don't love that grouping. I'm a little bit concerned about it, but it's also a lesser role, so it's fine. You could talk me into running back being on this list, but have some bodies. You have 3 guys you can play, Mostert, Wilson, A-Chain. Safety is next up, mostly because of depth. You're banking on Brandon Jones' breakout, but I think Javon Holland is a star already. And I'll mention quarterback, too. Not because anything against Tua. Again, I'm a part of Tua, and I love his game a lot. But the injury concerns are there, and the depth is a question mark. Do you trust Mike White and Skylar Thompson? I'm not so sure. There are not very many good backup quarterbacks out there anyway, so that's, we're talking about backup quarterback as one of your bigger concerns, probably means your roster overall is in pretty darn good shape.